Hey YouTubers, if you like what you hear, make sure you click subscribe on the button below. Today we're going to go over rookie landing spots for wide receivers, and we're going to do the AFC today. So sit back, crack a cold one, and have some fun with us.
In a world where losing in your fantasy football league isn't an option, we present to you Triple Coverage Podcast.
What is it? Politics, religion, and
Anything
sexual preference?
What is that's off limits?
That's off limits. I'm done. LeBron James.
LeBron James.
LeBron James.
LeBron James.
In Puebla.
Okay.
But they celebrate Cinco de Mayo.
It's a woman town. It's not a male town because it'd be Pueblo if it was male.
Take it easy, bro.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to TCP. Today I have again with me my brother James.
Whoa.
And once again, no Travis. He's still on scouting duty.
You think he's going to be gone all week?
I have a feeling he's going to be gone the entire week. Yeah, we won't see him until sometime next week. So hopefully he hits all of the OTAs.
Yeah, he's got a lot of work to do, so if he can get it done in a week, that's pretty impressive.
But he sent us a scouting report from the NFC wide receivers, and we just received the AFC wide receivers, so I know he's on the right track.
Let's see what he has in his notes.
All right, so today, like I just mentioned, we're going to do AFC rookie landing spots for wide receivers. And let's start with one of the guys I thought was pretty much a steal at where they got him, Courtland Sutton.
Yeah, Courtland Sutton, second round, 8th pick of the second round to the Denver Broncos
40th overall.
from SMU, 6'3", 220. I loved it. I don't know if I'm sold on what Courtland Sutton did in college. Like you said on a previous episode, Trey Quinn actually outproduced him his last year there. But Courtland Sutton's got that big prototypical size, 6'3", 220, like we said. Just like he reminds me of Demaryius Thomas, which is like what they already have there. So
They basically, Denver, and we'll get to the other guy in a little while, but they basically drafted their heir apparents for Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, knowing that they're probably not going to be there in 2019.
right, so they're both 31 years old, I believe, right?
No. One's older than the other one, but I think one's 30 and one's 29. They're
Okay.
not 31 yet.
Okay, so I mean, they're still got a couple years left, but I think Courtland Sutton can come in and make a pretty immediate impact. I don't know how much playing time or targets he gets. They have a new quarterback, Case Keenum. They have a new running back now. They drafted Royce Freeman. So the only thing that didn't change was their receiving core. You have Emmanuel Sanders still there. Demaryius Thomas is still there. A couple of tight ends like Jake Butt that was hurt all last year. How many targets? Where does he fit in this offense? Let's just say that. Is he going to be playing outside with Demaryius Thomas? Because Sanders is a slot guy, but he can play outside as well.
I think he could. And what's going to happen is going to be a battle with, is it Gerald Henderson? Was that
Gerald Henderson is a basketball player for the Charlotte Bobcats a whole bunch of years ago. You're talking, you have D'Angelo, you have Carlos Henderson.
Carlos, that's what, my fault. Carlos. I get my sports mixed up.
Carlos Henderson.
Carlos Henderson was taken a couple years ago in the draft, and he was going to be the guy that was going to be the number 3, and he's kind of developed slowly, but I don't really blame him because their quarterback play the last couple of years has been atrocious. So if Courtland Sutton can beat out Henderson,
which I think he can,
in camp, then I think he will get not immediate impact, but he will have some relevance in his first year.
Yeah, I think that his route running could definitely be a little bit more polished. So that, I think he should look towards Emmanuel Sanders, because Emmanuel Sanders has been doing it for a while. He did it very well in Pittsburgh. He does it still well in Denver. So he needs to be hanging out with him. And I think that he could easily, by week 5 or 6, be an integral part of this offense, opposite side of Demaryius Thomas. If you have Courtland Sutton on one side, Thomas on the other, Emmanuel Sanders in his slot position, which Sanders does play the outside.
He plays both, yeah.
He's mostly comfortable, in my opinion, playing the slot, and I like him more as a slot receiver. So those 3 guys on the outside, now you finally have a guy in Case Keenum that can actually get the ball to the outside. Whereas before they had the Paxton Lynch, they had
Trevor Siemian,
they have Chad Kelly that's there.
Osweiler.
Like none of these guys, they might have big arms, some of them, but they have no accuracy when they throw outside. Case Keenum has that. He made Diggs and Adam Thielen, both wide receiver 1 talent last year. So to me, I think this is a great landing spot for him, and I think that he will produce pretty quickly.
In dynasty leagues, I like him quite a bit because where he might not have immediate impact, like say day 1, week 1, over the course of the year, he's going to give you some fantasy points. He's going to have some fantasy relevance, but I think it's year 2 for Courtland Sutton is really going to take that step forward
Does
and be
Courtland
a stud.
Does Courtland Sutton get drafted in redraft leagues in a 12-team, 16-round?
Yes. I say late, just because where he was drafted in the second round and the team he was drafted to, I do think he will.
I would take a flyer for sure.
The thing that I think kind of boosts it up a little bit is just Case Keenum being there is going to boost it up a little bit for Thomas and Sanders. I think they still have a little bit of gas left in the tank. I think people aren't going to value them as much in redrafts.
Because they've been very inconsistent the last few years because of the quarterback play, and that's exactly what it is. I think this offense all of a sudden has new life. It has the potential to be a very good offense now with Royce Freeman in the backfield and adding all the receiving talent that they just drafted as well.
Yeah, so I think Sutton will give you a little bit of fantasy points this week or this year. I think that he will be drafted in redrafts, but Dynasty is where you want to have him.
For sure.
So let's move on to the next one. It was also a second rounder. And I actually like this pick quite a bit too because of who they drafted later on in the draft. James Washington out of Oklahoma State goes the 28th pick in the second round, which is number 60 overall. To the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah. So I've noticed a trend here with James Washington. Even though he got drafted by Pittsburgh, which is a pretty potent offense with a really good quarterback, Antonio Brown, Juju Smith, Le'Veon Bell, there's talent all around here in this offense. Yeah, I've noticed that he just keeps dropping in ADPs. Like you would think that he would start moving up because of the situation that he got drafted into, being on Pittsburgh's high-powered offense. But every time I look into ADP, he's squeezing now. He was being drafted. I'm sorry, like back in first round. Now he's squeezing into the 201, 202. I've seen him start to go now. It's like 205, 206 in the middle of the second round. What's causing him to drop so far? It can't be the landing spot. He's 5'11", 215 out of Oklahoma State, like we said. What's causing the drop?
I think the drop is caused because he's coming into camp as the number 3 receiver.
But okay, before you even answer, when Martavis Bryant was there, I could see, okay, now you have the 3 guys that have already been there. Now you're drafting a 4th. But on draft day, they traded Martavis Bryant, let him go to Oakland, and then drafted James Washington. So to me, if he's going to be in that Martavis Bryant role, he's going to have production. They use 3 receivers all the time.
Yeah, but has the 3rd receiver in their set been fantasy relevant? Because the last couple of years it has not been.
Yeah.
They had Juju emerge last year, and obviously Antonio Brown is the clear-cut number 1. They had Juju emerge, and Bryant was the 3, and he could never quite get on the same page as Ben Roethlisberger, which was weird because they were on the same page the year before and before he got suspended.
Right.
So to me, it's like the 3rd receiver there is like there, and he's going to get looks, but he's not going to be a fantasy relevant guy.
But
and the year before that, when Bryant was suspended, like Eli Rogers was the 3. So it's like they didn't really have a lot of production fantasy points wise out of their number 3.
To me, it comes down to: do you think James Washington is better talent wise than Martavis Bryant and Eli Rogers?
I think he's better than Eli Rogers. The jury's still out about Martavis Bryant. I think Martavis Bryant is pretty talented. I think he's a good, tall, big receiver that can catch, and he does more than just run deep routes.
Does he?
The reason I like James Washington is because of later on in the draft they take Mason Rudolph.
Correct.
And that's his college teammate.
So you're talking dynasty, and you're talking waiting multiple years until Roethlisberger retires. Minimum 2, I think, at this point. So you take James Washington, you store him for a year in your taxi squad. Maybe he doesn't really do much. Year 2, now he's on your roster. He doesn't really do much, but he does a little bit more, just enough to where you're not dropping him. Like you're talking about waiting to a 3rd year, and I think that's why his dynasty value has dropped. Is because you're almost waiting for these other older guys to either move on or to see what shakes down with Roethlisberger, what's going on with Le'Veon Bell and his contract. There's a lot that's, even though they have the superstar talent there, to me, like, if you're drafting James Washington, you're not banking on playing him.
No, but here's the way I feel about James Washington is that Pittsburgh, for whatever reason, they're scouting, the guys that have scouts that do receivers do a great job because they just have a knack for finding the next big receiver. It's happened for years and years with finding Mike Wallace, and Emmanuel Sanders came from there. Plaxico Burress, like they seem to have this knack of finding these guys, and they don't bring in receiver free agents.
Correct. They draft them.
Like this guy, James Washington, is going to be like the number 3. If he just does a little bit, he's going to take over Eli Rogers.
Well, Eli Rogers last year had ACL surgery, or he had torn ACL, so who knows? And he's still unsigned technically. So Eli Rogers is not even really on the roster if they don't want him to be. So I'm sure they're going to take a look at James Washington first, see what they got there, and then decide what to do with Eli Rogers. But if they do end up letting Eli Rogers go or they don't re-sign him, James Washington's the number 3 option there. If any kind of injury happens to Juju or Antonio Brown, like last year, Antonio Brown's calf misses 4 weeks, all of a sudden James Washington flashes. I mean, I would move him immediately.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's how
They have a knack of finding these receivers in the draft and turning them into studs.
Yeah.
So he's a guy that, you may have to hold on for him for a year or two. You might. But to me, that's worth the risk. And if I'm early second round, I'm jumping all over James Washington just because of that potential.
I have the pick 205 in the rookie draft. I will take James Washington if he is available. So I like him. I just don't know how long I have to wait on him. I have a lot of receiver talent on my team, so I'm okay with waiting.
Let's move on to the next guy because this one really confused me.
I don't know.
He's actually the very next pick in the draft. The Jaguars in the second round, 61st overall, take DJ Chark out of LSU.
DJ Chark, 6'3", 200 pounds. I said this on many other podcasts that we did before, leading up to the draft, after the draft, and so on. I didn't see much from him at LSU. He had a couple of long touchdowns. He looks very good in the open field when you can land the long ball. He goes to Jacksonville. Does Blake Bortles really throw that great of a long ball to where you think he has that he has immediate impact in any kind of format?
I just thought that they were kind of not loaded at receiver, but I thought they had enough guys.
Correct.
With Keelan Cole and Dede Westbrook, and they had Marquise Lee is still there, and then they go out and they draft Chark, and then they also went out and undrafted free agent. They signed Alan Lazard, so it's like they almost have like too many guys. Who's going to be the one that's fantasy relevant? Because not one of them stands out as a clear-cut number one. This is your guy that you want to have.
Is this a guy that just completely blew up the charts and jumped way up because of his 40-yard dash time?
And his combine, his Senior Bowl, he had a good game too. But
Senior Bowl, he had a good game. Okay, so what? And then he runs a 4.34 40-yard dash. Okay, like he's got the speed, but if his route running is just okay and he's just an okay, you know what I mean? Like at everything else, where does he fit in there? To me, I think like you just said, Marquise Lee, Keelan Cole, Dede Westbrook is a great 3-star, and they're all super young. They all have shown that they have had flashes of being very good on the team already from last year and the season before that. Where does he fit in? Just a long ball type of guy that every once in a while they throw him out there on a 4-receiver set and throw him up a 50-50 ball? I don't.
To me, this guy.
Why take him so early if you're Jacksonville?
Right, and that's what surprised me. This guy to me is the ultimate lottery ticket. If you're taking him in a dynasty draft, you're going to have to take him somewhere in the second round. Mm-hmm. And he could be the best receiver on Jacksonville.
No,
he could.
I don't think so though.
But then he could also not and be like the fourth receiver in the depth chart. And you're relying on Blake Bortles. So he goes from LSU, which is a team that didn't like to throw the ball very much. Their quarterback was Danny Etling, who not many people have heard of until they got drafted by the Patriots, or he did. I'm sorry. They like to run the ball, so now he goes to Jacksonville, which is another team that likes to run the ball, and they play defense. So how many opportunities is he really going to get?
That's what I'm saying.
On Jacksonville.
I don't know, but to take him in the second round, 29th pick overall, they clearly loved him, and obviously he's going to make the roster. So
yeah, he's going to make the roster, and to me, ultimate lottery ticket. Like he could bust, or he could just break into a great receiver.
His frame and the style that he plays is like Randy Moss with way less talent. I'm not saying that I'm not comparing the two, but him being a very tall, lanky wide receiver with just ridiculous speed in the open field. If he can start getting that 50-50 timing ball down and they get a couple of long balls, he might get a couple of long touchdowns this year. I just don't see him ever being a PPR guy where he's getting 60 or 70 catches in a year. He's the type of guy that's going to get the 10th getting maybe 40, 45 catches at the most and a couple of long touchdowns. That's it.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, ultimate lottery ticket.
If you're going to take him in the second round, good luck to you.
Hopefully you have more than one second-round pick in the rookie draft so you can kind of take a chance on someone like that because he could be a good pick later on down the road.
Okay.
You never know.
We will see.
Let's move on to the next guy here. Kiki Cutie, which for the longest time I thought it was Coty, but he's pronounced QT.
Huh?
Like you know coupons or like you could say coupons.
Mm-hmm.
The COU. That's kind of how he described it. So Kiki Cutie, out of Texas Tech, he gets taken in the 4th round. So no receivers were taken in the 3rd round by the AFC teams.
Right.
And at number 103 overall, Houston takes Cutie. So he gets to stay in state, Texas Tech, and he goes right to Houston.
You know, I don't hate this pick because of his landing spot. You have Deshaun Watson, which we have a small sample size from, but he looked phenomenal in the 6 or 7 games that he did play last season. You have Hopkins there. Mm-hmm. Love Hopkins. Obviously, he's a top 2 or top 3 receiver right now as far as dynasty-wise talks. Will Fuller, I also love as well.
Yes.
And then really after that, who do they have?
That's what I mean. They have like Bruce Ellington, who they re-signed for another 1-year deal because he actually played well. I think he could he could step right in and take the slot receiver role over.
Right.
And there already is a couple question marks at tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't really know who's going to start at tight end there.
Steven Anderson.
They said he might be one of the cuts.
Steven Anderson?
I read that Steven Anderson might be one of the guys that gets cut
Coach speak.
from the 53-man roster.
Coach speak.
But I like his situation. Like I said, Deshaun Watson is young, Hopkins is young, Fuller's young, and now you bring in Cutie, who's also young.
Put him in the slot. He's 5'10", he's 180. I think that he could have immediate production, and he's willing to play special teams as well. He's got explosive speed, so if he can get the ball in the open field, run some wide receiver screens across the middle, as long as he doesn't have alligator arms in the NFL, I think he should be okay.
I think he'll be totally fine there too.
And he's also probably going back in second round, middle to back.
Yeah, I'd say middle to back second round. You're not gonna have him there in the third, so you're gonna have to take him in the second in a rookie draft.
To me, I'd rather have him over the previous guy, over DJ Chark, because I think that he'll get the targets more than Chark will. Chark might end up with more touchdowns because of the long ball, possibly, but year one, I would take my chances with that.
I think Houston will throw more as well.
For sure.
So let's move on to the next pick here. Antonio Callaway was taken 2 spots behind Kiki there at number 105 overall to the Cleveland Browns. And here's a guy that if he had stayed away from the offseason troubles, he probably would have been a first-round pick. He would have been right up there with Ridley and DJ Moore in the top 25-ish. But this guy just cannot stay out of trouble in the offseason, and we haven't even gotten to training camp, which is when a lot of these guys get in trouble because they're in these little tiny towns sometimes, and there's nothing to do, and that's when you see these guys get arrested for speeding and all this other stuff. I'm hoping this guy makes it unscathed during the offseason because I think he's going to be exciting to watch.
To me, this is a lottery ticket of all lottery tickets, more than DJ Chark, because 5'11", 200 pounds, out of Florida, looked very good at Florida last season. He goes to the Browns, okay, who just got Jarvis Landry. They still have Josh Gordon under his rookie contract somehow. He's been in the league for 10 years, but somebody's still in his rookie contract, which whatever. But then you have Corey Coleman.
For the next few days.
To me, Corey Coleman's an odd man out. Now, this all depends. If they can trade Corey Coleman or get him off that roster somehow, and Antonio Callaway steps in as a third guy, I think that he could be very fantasy relevant right away. So, to me, Baker Mayfield or Tyrod Taylor, whichever one there is the starter and ends up being the starter for the year, I like Antonio Callaway there. If they keep Corey Coleman, I don't know where Antonio Callaway is going to fit in. There's not going to be enough targets to go around. So, to me, it's something that we're going to have to decide. Hopefully, it happens in the next couple weeks before rookie drafts happen, because I could totally see Corey Coleman getting traded in the next month or so before our fantasy drafts happen. Antonio Callaway will skyrocket up the rankings for rookies.
Oh, for sure he will.
He's already going in the mid-second round to late second round. I would say that he could be like 201, 202 range, even back in first if Corey Coleman gets out of there.
But he also has a microscope on him. He's going to be under a microscope.
Well,
because
and that's perfect, because so is Josh Gordon and so is Baker Mayfield. So their whole offenses.
They're saying that Josh Gordon is going to mentor him.
Yeah, and what, how to roll a blunt?
That to me, I was like, mentor him. He just barely is on the straight and narrow. Like,
maybe they need that though. They need that. You know what I mean? They can
motivate each other. Maybe.
Yeah, like what is it called in AA? Don't you have what's it called?
Sponsor.
A sponsor. I mean, Josh Gordon's a sponsor, and Antonio Callaway is his sponsor. And maybe they put him as roommates, which would be the worst possible thing I could ever imagine. But hey, if that works for them. I like the talent.
If they put him as roommates, I would like a reality show just on these two guys.
How about
they're
HBO?
Gonna be on Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks HBO.
I can't wait. I've never been excited to see the Browns backstage of the Browns before this year. But I'm super excited to actually watch this season.
Mayfield, Antonio Callaway, Josh Gordon, Jarvis Landry with a new team. You have Nick Chubb that's there. It's going to be amazing.
Wait.
I'll be glued to the TV for sure. Antonio Callaway, love the talent there. So if you can get him in the second round, I would definitely take a shot at him, especially if Corey Coleman moves on.
All right, so moving on to the next pick then is going to be Deshaun Hamilton, number 113 overall, still in the fourth round. The fourth round was a big round for rookie wide receivers in the AFC. He goes to Denver out of Penn State. And this, to me, is kind of the heir apparent to Emmanuel Sanders, like Courtland Sutton was to Demaryius Thomas.
6'1", 203 pounds. I like it. I really like it. I think that Denver and John Elway got their quarterback in Case Keenum in free agency. We knew it was between him and Kirk Cousins. You get Case Keenum. I'm okay with that. Now you have the two vet receivers with two rookie receivers coming in that they drafted pretty high, both within the first 4 rounds. So clearly both these guys they like a lot, and they're going to be on the actual roster. They're going to make the cut. So again, I think that it's going to be, for me, between Hamilton and Henderson. I think that Courtland Sutton has already got his spot kind of carved out. I think that he's the better of the three by far.
I believe so too.
So to me, it comes down to Hamilton and it comes down to Henderson for playing time for this season. So whoever does good in the preseason, OTAs, training camp, to me, kind of wins that job as the number 4 wide receiver, which still could be relevant this year.
It still could be, and you have to remember,
Not in redraft. I wouldn't take him in redraft. Don't get me wrong. But
he was the all-time leader in receptions at Penn State. He was second in receiving yards. So this guy comes with a pretty good pedigree, and he was taken in the 4th round, which isn't very high of a draft pedigree. But they didn't draft him for an immediate impact. So he's going to come in. He's going to learn. He's going to hopefully watch everything Emmanuel Sanders does, everything Demaryius Thomas does, and just learn in that system. And I think Denver, as a team, did a great job this offseason with going out and getting Keenum, like you said, and the way they drafted was fantastic. So kudos to Denver. I thought they had one of the best drafts of the entire NFL.
I agree. I think Hamilton fits in pretty good here. He just doesn't have that breakaway speed, and he's not very fast, so that's why I think he's perfect for the slot. You send him across the middle a few times. Emmanuel Sanders can always go to the outside and play both, so I'm not alarmed that they will find some targets for him if he can beat out Henderson there in training camp.
All right, moving on to the next guy here.
Here's a guy that shot up the list because I didn't even have him on my radar whatsoever in my rookie rankings. Like, he was not in the top 5 rounds for me personally.
And now he will be drafted because of the situation. So Baltimore Ravens take Jaleel Scott at number 132 overall, which is in the 4th round.
Pick 32.
Pick 32, so the back end of the 4th round. And he's a big guy. 6'5", 218 pounds out of New Mexico State. Didn't see a whole lot of tape on this guy because I didn't really, like I said, I didn't have him in my rookie draft rankings. But now the situation he steps into, he's got a couple aging receivers in front of him, but not a whole lot. Like, he doesn't have a lot of guys blocking him to getting onto the field for Baltimore.
You have Michael Crabtree. You have John Brown. Who's the third guy they just got?
They just signed a 3rd guy. It'll come to me in a second. Go ahead and talk about Jaleel Scott.
For me, though, neither one of those guys that they have. John Brown could be a deep threat, but he's more of a slot guy. Jaleel Scott's going to be the deep threat guy. And Joe Flacco, I don't know if Joe Flacco's days are numbered, but it doesn't look good when they go out and they got, Lamar Jackson to go behind him. So if you're telling me for just this season, I love the Flacco to Jaleel Scott because he's got a gigantic arm. Flacco can throw the ball anywhere.
Willie Snead.
He's another kind of deep threat, but he's also a slot guy. So the only big wide receiver they have really is Michael Crabtree to play the outside. John Brown's like 5'10". Willie Snead's also about 5'10", 5'11" at the max. This guy comes in, he's 6'5", 218. He could easily play the opposite side of Michael Crabtree, and you have Scott and Crabtree on the outside, and whichever one they want to go with the slot between Snead and John Brown. So Jaleel Scott, for me, kind of rose up a lot in my rankings. He went from not even being on my board to probably being drafted in the 3rd round of rookie drafts because of his landing spot and the situation that's around him.
Yeah,
every receiver that's on their roster right now is their first year.
Yeah.
So it's like to me, it's up in the only one that has a carved out spot is Michael Crabtree.
Well,
other than that, it's going to be a fight.
Technically, Brett Perriman is still on the list, and he's basically the veteran Ravens.
Brashad Perriman
Yeah.
What has he done?
You get injured a lot?
Okay, so to me, he's the odd man out for sure. Jaleel Scott is going to make this roster. He could potentially, by the end of the season or next year, be opposite side of Michael Crabtree.
They drafted 2 receivers in the 4th round. We'll get to the second one in a second, but right in between these two is Indianapolis. And at the 22nd pick of the 5th round, which would be 159 overall, they take Doris Fountain out of Northern Iowa.
We talked about him.
We talked about him too. We liked him a lot. And he was another guy that wasn't invited to the combine, but he had a great pro day. And then when we kind of started watching video on him, he looked good. And I know that Northern Iowa, he's not going to be facing top competition, but this is the guy that can go up and get it. And going to Indianapolis, besides T.Y. Hilton, who's obviously the number 1 receiver there, like, they don't really have a whole lot. They went out and signed Ryan Grant, and they have Chester Rogers, who's basically a layover from before. And they say that Chester Rogers probably has the fast track to the number 2 spot, like, as of today.
That's Coach speak.
But Doris Fountain is a guy that I like quite a bit. I like the way he plays. He's a good player. I really like.
6'2", 210. They don't really have a big wide receiver on the outside. Ryan Grant's kind of small. T.Y. Hilton's even smaller, and then that's it.
Chester Rogers isn't very big either.
But
so
so this guy to me could come in, but again, I'm so sketched out by Andrew Luck. I just took him in our dynasty startup Superflex because I needed a quarterback, and I'm just praying that he pans out to what he was. I hope this injury is not a mental thing. that's just going to hinder him for the rest of his career and he kind of fizzles out. But if Andrew Luck comes back the way Andrew Luck can, I think that every receiver that's on this roster is going to get plenty of volume and plenty of targets because that defense is absolutely horrendous. They're going to be throwing the ball a ton.
You think it's going to be like Chuck Knobloch or Mackie Sasser when they just couldn't throw the ball?
From second base to first base, you couldn't make a throw.
Chuck Knobloch in baseball was literally like he was a rookie of the year for Minnesota Twins. He went on to the Yankees, won a World Series or two with them, and then all of a sudden just couldn't throw the ball from second base to first.
Overthrows, bouncing.
You think that happens to Luck?
It's been so last time we recorded it was 499 days since he's thrown a ball. Now it's 506 days because it's been a week.
Do we know though for sure?
I
think he's thrown a ball behind closed doors and they're just not letting media in there.
Okay, well if he has, then it has not been public yet, and the chance of that happening is very slim because everything is recorded. Somebody sees something. Cell phones are everywhere now. Somebody would have video of it, and I haven't seen video of it. So I'm going to go with saying that he hasn't thrown a football, only a weighted ball from what we know. Who knows how big that weighted ball is? There's a lot of questions, but I like Fountain. He jumped up on our draft board for sure. He was not being drafted. Now I think Fountain goes probably in the back end fourth, maybe fifth round as a lottery ticket because he could easily squeeze into that lineup.
We will see.
Fifth round now, right?
Fifth round? No, this is the end of the fourth round still.
It says 525 on there.
I'm sorry, you're right. It is fifth round. My apologies. They drafted two receivers in the fifth round here. So Jordan Lasley is number 162 overall.
Mm-hmm.
He's out of UCLA. And I actually like his potential almost as much as I like Jaleel Scott's, even though he was taking 30 picks behind Jaleel Scott.
Yeah, UCLA 6'1", 205, like you said. He's a two-year starter at UCLA, and they threw a lot. Josh Rosen, he had as his quarterback, right?
Yes, he did.
So he goes from Josh Rosen to Joe Flacco, which, I mean, I don't know about that.
The knock on him, though, was really about immaturity and behavior issues.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of cocky, and
wide
receiver isn't.
Every top wide receiver is cocky.
But he was to a point to where it was becoming like a distraction. And I don't know how UCLA even got through a season when you have Rosen, who they kept saying was cocky, and then they had Jordan Lasley. Like, you would have thought they won every national championship that they played together. But
they didn't?
They didn't win any national championships. So if Lasley can get that together and maybe get the immaturity, which by all means, every guy has a chance. There's still guys playing in the NFL. Players playing in the NFL, they're still immature. That haven't turned the corner yet. So I'm hoping that Jordan Lasley does, but if he doesn't, he can find himself on the cut list.
The only wide receiver one that's like a top 5 guy in the NFL is not cocky, Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, the guy just does his job and goes home, and you don't hear anything about him. You don't see any negative. He doesn't taunt anybody. He doesn't do anything like that. But anyways, we'll stick to Jordan Lasley for now. Jordan Lasley, I think he's got very good hands. He's got great instincts as well. I think that, I don't know, Baltimore just, it to me screams of, you have Michael Crabtree, who had the top 3 in drops the last probably 3 years. So he's not very sure-handed at all. And then a bunch of just guys. And it's so up in the air to me that I would almost stay away from these guys because I don't know how it's going to pan out. Excuse me. Both of these guys, Lasley and who's the guy before him? We just talked about Jaleel Scott. Could end up being under taxi squad for the entire year and then just never pan out and never get a starting job.
But
that's what the risk is.
This might also be like another situation kind of like Denver, though, where they drafted Sutton and Deshaun Hamilton to take over for Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. And now in Baltimore, these guys are even in a better situation because if Lamar Jackson does anything at quarterback, I'm not even saying he has to be great, just be anything at quarterback, now you have basically Jaleel Scott and Lasley moving into behind Crabtree and Willie Snead and John Brown, who, let's face it, Crabtree's the only one that's a big name there, and he's 31 years old.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's not like he has to really beat out John Brown and Willie Snead because these guys are such great receivers. So if Lasley can get it together and knock off the behavior issues and the immaturity, I think he would do really well. I think that it's gonna end up biting himself in the ass if he can't get rid of the immaturity issues.
And he's going to Baltimore, where, to me, that's not the safest place to be, but...
to me, Harbaugh is kind of a hard ass too, just like both Harbaugh brothers are. So I don't think he's going to put up with Lasley's immaturity if he can't get it together.
Do you see like a Latrell Sprewell situation happening with Lasley and Harbaugh where he chokes him out?
No.
No? Oh,
no,
okay.
I think the defense will step up and protect him before that happened.
So yeah, both. If you want to take a chance on a Baltimore wide receiver, and it has to be one of those two, from me, I'm taking
Lasley ahead of
I know. I think I would take Lasley just a few spots ahead of him as well.
And just hope that he keeps it together.
That's it.
Let's move on to the next pick, actually. In the 6th round, number 176 overall, Cleveland Browns take another receiver, Damian Ratley. Now, this is kind of the situation like with Jacksonville. Like, I thought they were pretty set at receiver, and they have some decent depth. Not big stud receivers from top to bottom, but they have some big names, and then they have depth guys. And then they take Damian Radley, who wasn't on my rookie scouting report, and still isn't.
Yeah.
So
even if they get rid of Corey Coleman there, Damian Radley, I don't know where he fits in that offense. I see him as like a practice squad type of guy that if a couple injuries happen, or Josh Gordon or Callaway or one of these other, like
troublemakers.
Yeah, I don't know how to say it politely. Yeah, if one of these guys gets busted for something, and then he kind of makes a roster, then maybe down the road. But for me, I wouldn't take a shot on him because of the situation that they're stacked at wide receiver right now. I don't see where he fits in.
Yeah, I agree. So let's move on to Deion Kane, who I like quite a bit. I'm surprised he actually dropped this far too.
Me too.
6th round, 185 overall, and he went to the Indianapolis Colts. So we were just talking about Doris Fountain.
Out of Clemson, 6'2", 202. I was surprised he dropped this far. I really was. I thought that he would be drafted like in the 4th, maybe the 5th round. He slides all the way to the 6th, and he goes to a great situation. We just talked about the Colts situation that they have there because of, who was it?
Doris Fountain, yeah.
So now Deion Kane, to me, can beat out Fountain. Like, you have two guys now that you can put with T.Y. Hilton. I like both of these guys more than Ryan Grant, and I like them both more than I like Chester Rogers. Yeah, so these two guys are going to be fighting it out in training camp. Whoever has the highlights of the, whatever happens in preseason, I think is going to be very determined by where these end up in the depth chart for the Indianapolis Colts. And I think Deion Kane could easily slide into the number 3 behind T.Y. Hilton and whoever they think. Obviously, it's going to be Ryan Grant's going to get first crack. They just gave him a gigantic contract. So to start the season, Ryan Grant's going to be the number 2 guy. But by the end of the season, it could be up for grabs.
I agree. And Deion Kane came out of wide receiver U, so you're always going to kind of like those Clemson receivers. They always seem to produce at the next level.
Deep threat guy, Andrew Luck. If he gets his arm and mental situation together,
then this is a steal.
This is a steal of the draft.
And where do you take him in a rookie draft?
See, Deion Kane, for me, I still like him in the back end of the 3rd round. Even though he's going rounds after the guys we just talked about, I'm saying it's mid to late 3rd round.
So me too. Okay, I was thinking maybe I sounded a little crazy saying that, but yeah, if both of us
like,
agree
I'm
on
drafting
that,
Deion Kane before I'm drafting Fountain.
I think so too, but I think they both are going to go in the 3rd round.
Right, but
I don't see
if
them being
I'm on the
too
clock
far
and I
apart.
only have one and they're both available, I only have one pick, I'm taking Deion Kane over Fountain.
Okay, let's name 2 guys really fast. We won't delve into them too much because I don't think either one of these guys get drafted. Maybe one of them, but Ray McLeod,
Also out of wide receiver U.
also out of wide receiver U. So you have to mention him. He goes to Buffalo.
I'm gonna mention him just because I like saying his name, Ray.
Yeah, he's gonna have a great camp with everybody like Ray.
Little Ray from around the corner from Clemson gets drafted at Buffalo. You don't think he... Like, okay, he's in Buffalo. Let's just be honest. You wanted to put them together, but the other one is in a way worse situation. He goes to Buffalo. Who's stopping him from stepping on the field and producing? Kelvin Benjamin. Then what?
I don't think they drafted him to be a receiver, to be honest with you. I think they drafted him to be more of a return guy.
Okay, so who's the number 2 in Buffalo? It's so...
As of right now, I'd say Zay Jones.
Yeah, he looks mentally unstable for sure. So you have Zay Jones and Ray McLeod. Like, you can't tell me he's not going to get wide receiver.
I don't see how Buffalo's going to put up points because everyone's going to just stack the box against LaShawn McCoy, and LaShawn McCoy is going to get the volume. He is going to get the carries and he's going to get receptions. But I think he's going to struggle a lot this year, McCoy, because everyone's going to key on him. They're going to make Josh Allen try to beat them, and if he starts turning
Josh
the ball,
Allen, what about A.J. McCarron?
He's going to beat out A.J. McCarron.
Week 1?
I think so.
Really?
I think so.
See, I really like Josh Allen. I was the one of the only 3 of us, between me, you, and Travis, that really like Josh Allen. And I'm surprised to hear you say that, just because I haven't heard any of you guys put any respect on his name whatsoever.
I don't like Josh Allen.
Well,
but I think
it's starting to come out a little bit.
I think he can beat out A.J. McCarron.
Exactly. He went to a great spot, and you guys were still just boo-hooing him like he was the worst. Out of the 5 that got drafted in the 1st round, he's by far the worst. I don't think that's the situation.
They're in a bad spot.
Right, but I think
Buffalo's in a bad spot right now.
Let's just leave it at that then. Next. Buffalo, you're in a world of hurt. Go ahead.
Dylan Cantrell.
Which we also thought last season, and they went to the playoffs. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Dylan Cantrell, don't see where you fit in. You get drafted by the Chargers, 6th round, 17th pick overall. You're 6'3", you're 225. You're a pretty big wide receiver. You're white. He's a slot guy. He's a slot receiver. So he can maybe fit in. You have Keenan Allen. You have Mike Williams. You have Tyrell Williams. And is that it, really? Hunter Henry is a tight end there.
Yeah, I mean, he could carve out a role, but I don't see him getting on the field very much.
They should use him as a 2nd tight end. That was my first thought, is you have
He's
Gates.
a pretty big guy, 6'3", 226.
Gates is out of there. You have Hunter Henry. If you want to run a 2 tight end set, you throw this guy out there. He's 6'3", 225. He's from Texas Tech. He can catch. He's got good instincts. He's fast. He's like a basically faster version of Hunter Henry.
But what do the Chargers do? Like what on
Spread
offense?
the offense.
They throw the ball.
Yeah, spread it out.
Rivers just chucks it up 35, 40 times a game. So any receiver that's on the Chargers, you have to at least take a look at. He wasn't on my rookie draft. I don't think he'll be drafted in our rookie
Back in fifth round. I have 2 back in fifth.
as a shot in the dark.
I think I have offhand. I think I have like the 507 and the 510. Like yeah, if he's one of the only guys I recognize the names there, he's going to a good offense. I might throw him a pick. Otherwise, he's probably not going to get drafted.
I agree. So let's just move on.
Last couple of guys here.
Yeah, let's move on. So this is a guy that wasn't on anybody's radar before the draft either, but Braxton Berrios from Miami, 5'9", 184 pounds. New England Patriots take him. And
Shocker.
They take him in the back end of the 6th round, the 36th overall in the 6th round.
This is what's annoying about the New England Patriots. I'm just going to be honest. Like, you see this, and you're like, there's no way this guy's making the roster. And he might not make the roster. He might make the practice squad or something like that. Then all of a sudden, a year or two now, Edelman maybe leaves or Amendola now is out of there. And all of a sudden you say, oh, Braxton Berrios, I've heard this name before. And all of a sudden, Braxton Berrios is catching 70 balls as the new white slot receiver. Young, small,
They just love drafting
short guys.
the little tiny white
That's what I'm saying.
slot guys.
And then all of a sudden he pans out. But like you don't know when that's going to be. Is it a year? Is it 3 years? Is it immediate? Like you don't know with the New England Patriots, and that's why I'm so leery about taking anyone on New England's offense besides Gronkowski and Brady. Other than that, outside of them two, I'm sketched out by everyone. So this guy has no fantasy relevance for me. He's not going to get drafted in our rookie draft, but eventually down the line,
I think he will get drafted in our rookie draft.
He'll get picked up off waivers when he catches a touchdown or 2 touchdowns in a game randomly, and then you never hear from him again.
I think he is going to get drafted in the.
Well, good luck to you. Whoever
It
drafts him.
won't be by
good
me,
luck.
but someone will take him. I'm telling you right now, someone's going to take him.
Won't be me either. So.
Here's a couple of guys' names that I thought would actually get drafted higher, but they ended up falling all the way to the back end of the 7th round. Is Marcel Aitman from Oklahoma State. He was teammates with James Washington and Mason Rudolph, who both went a lot higher than him, but he's the bigger guy of the 2 receivers.
Yes, look how big he is.
6'5", 216 pounds, and he's a massive target with a wide range.
And he is great at 50-50 balls. So this is where I see him fitting in. He goes to Oakland. Okay, you have Derek Carr, you have John Gruden as a coach now, great quarterback coach. To me, he is now fighting for Martavis Bryant's slot. They just got Martavis Bryant. He's a huge, tall, skinny guy that loves going deep to go deep routes. To me, he's not the greatest at 50-50 catches, Martavis Bryant. That's why he didn't really work out in Pittsburgh. Like, he just never produced what he should have been producing because he wasn't that guy to go up and get the 50-50 balls. Like, sometimes he did, sometimes he did. Marcel Aitman basically was known for to catch the long ball, going up in traffic, and coming down with that ball. So to me, if you're Marcel Aitman, I'm focused right on Martavis Bryant trying to take his role. But obviously, it's Martavis' role to lose.
To me, this is a situation, especially taking him in the 7th round. You don't have anything invested in this guy really, and the way I look at it is, if he does make the team, he's going to be only a red zone threat. He's going to be very touchdown dependent.
For sure.
So if you're looking at him in fantasy drafts, you're not going to take him probably in your rookie draft unless you just have a ton of picks.
See, I would rather take. You're telling me you wouldn't take Aitman over Berrios?
I probably would take Berrios or Aitman, to be honest with you.
But if you had to choose one, and they're both on the board.
I would probably take Berrios over Aitman.
Wow.
Just
There's
because
19
of the system
receivers in New England.
Just because of the situation he's in. This guy's 5th on the depth chart right now as it is, Aitman is.
Who's 4th? You have the Cooper, Nelson, Martavis Bryant. Who are you putting ahead of him?
I had to pull up the depth chart, to be honest with you.
Whoever it is, it ain't good. But yeah, I agree. I mean, but all these guys we're talking about are probably now at this point 5th round or just not taking it all. So I don't want to go too deep into it. But Marcel Aitman, I like his. Yeah, for sure he is.
So if he doesn't get 4 touchdowns or 5 touchdowns in a year, he's not going to get you 30 or 40 catches. He's going to get you like 20, 25 catches.
But if he can overtake Martavis Bryant as number 3, and you have Jordy Nelson who's 32 years old, eventually he's going to slow down. 33, 34 years old, Jordy Nelson, or you have Marcel Aitman who's gigantic.
It's going to be all Amari Cooper this year.
I agree with that. I just took him in our Dynasty Startup, so I'm hoping you're right.
Okay, so let's move on to the very last guy. Actually, there's 2 undrafted free agents I want to talk about, but we'll move. This is the last guy to draft, Auden Tate. Out of Florida State, 6'5", 228 pounds. He gets taken very late, 7th round, 35th pick overall by the Cincinnati Bengals.
Why did he slide so much, you think?
I don't know why he slid so much. He had a terrible combine. He looked very, very slow. he landed in a decent situation, but his quarterback, he went from at Florida State. I guess his 2 years ago he had a pretty good season. Last year his starting quarterback gets hurt like in the first week
for the season,
and he was just done for the whole season, and he didn't have a great year. So he combines that with a bad combine. He ran a terrible 40 time. And then he goes to Cincinnati where they have Andy Dalton, and they didn't even draft another quarterback to even compete with Andy Dalton. So, I mean, he could land.
Who's the guy he's beating out? Brandon LaFell?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, he lands in a spot where it's good, but you still have Andy Dalton running the situation there.
John Ross, AJ Green. I don't know where he fits in here, but for me, my first thought, again, is when I see his size and what he brings to the table is Tyler Eifert hasn't played more than like 4 games in like 3 years. Like, every time he gets hurt, he's just like Jordan Reed. Throw him at tight end. If let's say Tyler Eifert gets hurt. If I'm Auden Tate, I'm begging
Tyler Kroft.
Put me in. Yeah, exactly.
He played great last year though for them.
He's okay. Yeah, I agree. But if I'm Auden Tate, I'm trying to get and I have there's no spot for me as at wide receiver. I'll say, hey, I'll be willing to play tight end. Let me block, improve myself in the blocking schemes, and maybe throw me out there because even if with this 40-yard dash time, he's got to be faster than Tyler Kroft and Tyler Eifert in my opinion. I mean, it's got to be close. So throw him out there. 6'5", 230. I mean, give the guy a chance somewhere.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to burn past anybody. That's
definitely
for sure.
not. Throw him across the middle and let him block a little bit.
2 guys to keep an eye on that were undrafted free agents that signed. These guys more than likely won't get taken in your draft. One guy could, but it's a stretch. Is Alan Lazard?
Say it right.
Lazard. Alan Lazard. He gets taken by Jacksonville as an undrafted free agent, which is, like we talked about earlier, another wide receiver. So he's got a lot of competition there. And this guy's got no pedigree whatsoever because he was taken as an undrafted free agent.
He sits on the practice squad, and you're going to sit and wait. I could see him going in the 5th round, though, just because of his size. And
just someone taking a chance on him?
Yeah.
And then Byron Pringle, taken by the Kansas City Chiefs.
Don't see where he fits in.
They're another team, though, that doesn't have a whole lot. I mean, who's he playing behind? You have Hill and you have Watkins. Besides that, who else
they got rid of Albert Wilson, correct?
Right.
So
who else do you have there, though?
No, there's another guy there. Right there. Scroll right there.
Well, he came out of Kansas State. This is just the undrafted free agent.
Oh, okay. They drafted a couple of wide receivers. Or undrafted wide receivers. It's not Albert Wilson. Who is it? Are you pulling up the depth chart?
Yeah.
That's going to take a second here. I just think that Pat Mahomes at quarterback, I love the situation that Pat Mahomes is in, and I think that they will throw a lot, but you have Kelsey really is the number 1 target. Number 2 is probably Tyreek Hill. Number 3 is Sammy Watkins, which is a great 3 starting, wide receiver core-ish, even though including the tight end. They also throw to Hunt. So anyone that's coming in that situation at all is going to be like the 5th option. So I don't know who it is going to win. DeAnthony Thomas.
Chris Conley is probably
Chris Conley is who I was thinking of. None of those guys are going to be fantasy relevant in a redraft league, and I don't think any of them should be taken in a rookie draft league for, not any of those guys, but I mean, the guy we're talking about. What's his name?
Byron Pringle.
Pringle's not getting taken anywhere.
I mean, it's a great name, though. I love saying the name.
You're not going to hear it at all this entire season, so get it out now because this will be the last time you hear Byron Pringle's name. If you're watching this podcast and you're watching on YouTube and your one thing that you came here for is for us to talk about Byron Pringle, we talked about him, and that's probably the last time you guys are going to hear about that.
Before we leave, too, the other guy we forgot to mention on the depth chart for Jacksonville when we were naming all 15 other receivers, Dante Moncrief. They just signed him. They actually gave him like $9 million.
One year, though. 1 year prove-it deal. So
like $9 million. So it was a pretty. He's going to not make the team.
Okay, let's say 2 of those guys aren't going to pull up. Where is that? On the right? Oh, in the middle. Okay. Okay, which one of those 2 of these guys are not going to make it? They're not going to make the squad. You have Marquise Lee, Keelan Cole, D.D. Westbrook, Dante Moncrief, DJ Chark.
Even Jaden Miggins last year played pretty well, like for the limited role he had. So you're talking about like the 7th guy on the depth chart, Rashad Green.
Oh, and Alan Lazard, right?
Alan Lazard.
Okay, so of those 6-ish, 7-ish guys, 2 of them probably aren't going to make the team. Right. Was it Alan Lazard and? I mean,
I think Lazard doesn't make it.
I agree, but to me, it's going to be Marquise Lee will finish as number 1. D.D. Westbrook's going to finish as number 2. Keelan Cole's going to be the number. It's going to be between Keelan Cole and Dante Moncrief for the number 3.
I think they're going to just throw the ball to Moncrief more than any. I have a feeling. I don't know why. I think they're going to try to just force the ball to Moncrief. I don't know why.
I don't think Moncrief's that great. He had his chance in Indianapolis with a healthy Andrew Luck, and he had that 1 year where he had like 9 touchdowns, and he was only touchdown dependent, and then never did anything after that. So a touchdown dependent guy with Blake Bortles throwing him the ball with 8 other receivers, I just don't. The targets aren't going to be there. They're a run-first team. It's going to be Leonard Fournette. So whoever does shake down to be the number 1, 2, and 3 there,
Right.
it's going to be very close because all 3 of them are going to be in the same kind of vicinity of each other, and it's going to be majority of Leonard Fournette running the ball. So let's be honest. Like, is there really a Jacksonville wide receiver that you have to own right now? I say no. It's just guys.
They're just a bunch of guys. Yeah.
You're
until
waiting
someone
for-
steps forward and takes over.
You're waiting for one of those guys to pop and then immediately trade him and get him off your roster. So, is there anybody else that you wanted to add to the wide receiver AFC landing spots?
No, I was just kind of looking through, but no, there's nobody else. Just keep an eye out on camp. Right now, it's only rookies mostly and guys trying to make the team. So just keep an eye out. And if your draft isn't until later, especially in redrafts, see what happens in the preseason. See who they're kind of like looking at and who has a chance to make the 53-man roster before you
Do not be one of those people, though, that falls for an Allen Lazard 90-yard touchdown in preseason and you go and you blow your, whatever on them because we did that with Amir Abdullah.
Mm-hmm.
Not we personally, but everyone kind of went crazy. The hype train got out of control. So you can't put too much in just watching one preseason game and judging a guy's entire, pedigree on that one game. Because remember, it is preseason. They're playing against second and third defenses. Don't get too carried away.
The hype train got out of control on Kenny Galladay, too. Remember, he was the guy that should have been taken a little bit later, and because he had a 2-touchdown game in preseason, he blew up, and he got taken really early, and the jury's still out on him. I think he'll be good, but I think he got taken way too early than where he should have been taken.
I agree. So watch those hype trains. Ready to crack a cold one?
Let's crack it.
Okay. I'm on the clock.
On the clock.
Who do I take? Jay?
Hold on.